On this week's episode of the Marketing Expedition podcast, it's my pleasure to get to speak with Kim Sherman-Labrum. And she's a small business consultant with the Idaho SBDC, where she's worked since 1998. In her capacity as a consultant, she is a professional small business cheerleader, a tech whisperer, a mentor, a dream booster, and she's focusing in the digital marketing space. She primarily works with entrepreneurs on their online marketing needs, but also has specialties in startup and franchise businesses. She's an accomplished speaker and trainer who has developed and delivered content on many topics, both locally and nationally. But before we get to her interview, I have to tell you all about an upcoming event that's being hosted by Peppershock, and actually Kim is going to be a speaker there as well. But we have the new marketing trends for the new year coming up January 22nd, 2022. Now, if you're listening to this after the fact, you can go to themarketingexpedition.com and sign up to become a member of our community and listen to all of the speakers' talks that will be there. But if you are listening to this before January 19th, we would love for you to sign up. It's going to be either in person or online, and you can get your tickets at peppershock.com/events. And really the idea here is going over all the new marketing trends that are up and coming, ways that you can build your brand and your bottom line for your business. And if you are wanting to get the latest and greatest in tips, tools, trends, get ideas and inspiration, get yourself on the cutting edge of what's going on in the world today, and have your business or organization's marketing strategies keeping up with the changing times, right? We want to keep on top of the emerging trends, those technologies, all the tips that we're going to continue to help you stay on track. And of course, Kim has a lot of wonderful information. She's just a wealth of knowledge, as well as some of the other speakers we have, including myself. So go to peppershock.com/events and get yourself signed up for the event. And if you can't attend, you can also sign up and then watch the replay. You can also sign up to become a community member, where we'll have all the videos posted after the fact. And you can go to themarketingexpedition.com and then sign up for that there. All right. So now it's time for the Marketing Essentials moment, and then we'll get into the interview with Kim. For this week's topic on the Marketing Essentials moment, the basics that you need to help you continue to build your brand and your bottom line, I want to talk about why it's important to consider hiring a marketing agency or an advertising agency or whatever you want to call what we do. Now, there, of course, are wonderful resources like Kim at the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, and they give you lots of wonderful, good, free, and helpful, useful advice, and sometimes they charge for the trainings that they do. But when you're ready to take it up a level and you need some additional help to continue to help you grow your brand and scale up your business, and maybe there's some tactics that need to be done because you've neither got the time, maybe nor the talent, then it's time to consider hiring a marketing agency. And we know with smartphones and all the things that you can do on your own, sometimes doing it yourself can hinder you from being able to really elevate what it is that you're trying to accomplish in growing your business, growing your brand, growing your organization, whether you're a for-profit or nonprofit, whether you're a Fortune none to Fortune 100 company. Utilizing the services of an agency can certainly help you in that area. We had the concept of, knowing that we can take pictures on our own, we can create videos on our own now, and understanding that you can make posts from your cell phone and all of those things, right? But at some point, the strategy behind what it is that you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, getting a return on that marketing investment, getting that ROMI, otherwise known as return on marketing investment, can really help you elevate the goals that you're setting and help you accomplish them. And we know that the technology is always changing, and being able to stay on top of it, that's what agencies can do. And they can help you take your brand from point A to then point B. And in that journey, you can do a division of duties. What is it that you want to continue to take on doing yourself versus having the assistance of others help you along the way, and using the expertise and the knowledge and the experiences that a team like ours has is an example. Whether you use our agency at Peppershock or another, thinking about when it's time to elevate that process and go through that, right? Marketing takes time, right? It takes a lot of expertise and, scientific method, but also intuition. And when you have experienced people who can help you in that journey, it can really elevate what you're wanting to accomplish. And maybe it is time to think about what kind of budget you would put towards hiring an agency to take on the work that needs to get done so that it's effective and you are implementing effective marketing strategies and plans and the campaigns that are happening, the research, the development, the testing, the A/B testing that you may want to do in the campaign to make sure that the money that we're spending is working, right? And depending on the size of your business and the time that you have to invest or hire others to help you could really be almost the equivalent of another job, right? And so if you use an agency, we have 10 different people who have 10 different areas of expertise collaboratively coming together. And it's really an extension of your marketing department, if you will. And you can hire these agencies to be able to extend the amount of time that you can spend on your marketing, right? And, hiring a person, they have the expertise of that one person. Whereas if you hire an agency now, suddenly you've got 10 different areas or however many people are in that agency to work in your business with you. And, it takes that experience and that collaboration and all of the components that come together to help you in your journey, right? So hiring an agency can really help you in the long run improve your bottom line, right? And it helps you continue to grow and utilize the latest in tools and technologies and things that the expertise comes with hiring that agency. And it might not actually be a bad idea because then you're not going to waste money and do things that may not even work for you, right? And so knowing when it's time to hire that agency, you can consider looking at the different components that it takes to be the good fit. We call it the client worthiness index, right? We want to make sure that the clients that we take on are a good fit for us just as much as it is for them. And if our knowledge and expertise can really help elevate their brand, then we want to work with them. And we want to make sure that, it's the expertise that we have that is going to be able to utilize to your advantage. And we want to work with clients that will take our recommendations, that will trust our knowledge and what we are wanting to propose to them to do. And we want to be able to work with those that, will work with us and collaborate as partners, not necessarily just order takers, but as partners. We want to work with you in reaching those goals, even setting the goals. Sometimes we work with our clients to set the goals that we want to accomplish in everything from the growth of the company to internal and external marketing, right? Employer and employee branding, culture building, all the way out. Because, we say that branding starts with your culture from the inside out. And so taking a look at all of the different components and all the things that you're doing in your marketing plan. And we can even help you create that plan and strategy setting forward and set that up for you to then continue to grow and build that brand and bottom line. All right, so let's talk with Kim. I'm so excited for you to hear from her today. We just got to talking and you're going to love it. All right, let's get into it.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast, an auditory journey through the latest in marketing, branding, and advertising. Now, here's your Marketing Expedition guide, Rhea Allen.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast. I'm your host, Rhea Allen. I'm the president and CEO of Peppershock Media and the founder of the Marketing Expedition community. And today's guest, we have Kim Sherman-Labrum. It's a pleasure to have you. You and I go way back, and I've known you for so long. So from the very first time I ever went to the Small Business Development Center, way back.
Way back. Yeah, that's funny. I started at the SBDC in 1998, and I was the regional administrative assistant. So Ray would come in to visit with our counselors, and I would set up her appointments and call her to remind her and harass her about her appointments and greet her and get her clients and probably other things too. But yeah, so for as long as she's been a client of the SBDC, at least from 1998 on, that would be where how long we've known each other, which is kind of weird. I didn't realize how long that is, but I'm sure it's a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we started, truth be told, we started about in 2003. Well, I think I started coming there even before I started the business, though. So it could have been since about 2002, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Excellent.
Yep. Yep.
So
And I
that's
had
really cool.
wonderful counselors who got us through. And for the listeners, I just would strongly encourage you to find out what the SBDC does and listen to this, because Kim's got a lot of great information and knowledge. But let's just share a little bit. What does the SBDC do?
Okay, so the SBDC stands for Small Business Development Center. It is a federally and state funded program. We have the Small Business Administration is kind of our main funder and boss, but we also are housed at the College of Business at Boise State, at least here in Boise. All of our SBDCs are housed with a Institute of Higher Learning. So anywhere that you go in the state of Idaho, in one of the major economic centers, you'll find an SBDC. So if you're up in Coeur d'Alene, there's one up there with North Idaho College. If you're in Pocatello, it's with ISU, so on and so forth. So with that, that is kind of where we come from. And our program is set out to help small businesses be more successful. So how do we do that? Well, we have a core set of services. Primarily, we do confidential, no-cost, one-on-one consulting or mentoring, where we sit down with you and say, okay, what do you need help with? And if it's startup, if it's HR hiring issues, if it's marketing, if it's I'm ready to sell the business and leave it behind, if I want to franchise, all of those things, we have the expertise to help with that. We also have training and development. So we put on trainings that are targeted towards small business owners, and they run the gamut. Again, anything that has to do with a small business, we will do training on it. We do QuickBooks training, we do social media training, we do financial training, we do HR, whatever it is that our clients are looking for. In the Boise area, we also are very blessed. We have 2 accelerator spaces, and accelerators, pardon me, used to be called incubators. So if you're familiar with the terminology, and it's a place where early stage businesses can go, and they have shared resources like break rooms and training rooms, and a front desk person and mail, and all of that stuff is already in place for them. And in addition, they get a space that's their own, that's no longer in the back room or the garage. And for those of us who have been working out of our kitchens and back rooms and garages for 2 years, it's probably a really cool thing. But we also have on-site mentors, counselors like myself, who are there all the time to walk you through, talk to you, say, okay, what's your goal? Where are you at hitting it? How do we get you there? All of those things. And so it's a more intensive counseling. You can do the counseling with us by making appointments and meeting with us. But when you're on site and you just walk by somebody in the break room and you talk really quickly about it, are people who are out at those locations. And Ray, you were at the one out in Nampa, weren't you?
Well, I visited quite frequently. I actually ended up mentoring and doing some marketing work with some of the businesses that were through the accelerator program at the time. So you definitely saw me there for sure.
Okay, that's my memory. 23 years, sometimes it gets a little fuzzy on some of those details. But in general, that is what we do. And the great thing is we are a nationwide program. Actually, you could kind of technically call us worldwide, because there are SBDCs in Canada. They're not called SBDCs, but it's the same program. And so it is government funded, and it's free to, by and large. I mean, some places charge for trainings and certain things, but our counseling is always free. And you can go to any place in the United States. There's 1,100 SBDCs in the United States and its territories. Wow. So generally, if there's a college near you, there's probably an SBDC associated with it. If there's not, then you might look at a Chamber of Commerce or an Economic Development Office. That's also where we partner. owner. So, and I actually have clients who have moved away or they're in other states. And the wonder of Zoom is I have clients that are now in North Carolina, in Utah. So it's kind of a weird world that we live in, but it's kind of cool that I can help them out anywhere. So you can stick with counselors, you can find new ones, but we're all there to help you. And it just, whatever your needs are as a small business, that's what we're there to do, is to help you.
And it's not just for startups, it's for businesses that have been in, for a long period of time. So, you don't have to just be a startup, right?
As a matter of fact, about 75% of our clientele are already in business. Only about 25% of our clients, give or take of where you're at and stuff, are startups. So yeah, I think right now in the Boise area, we're running about 35, 65. So it's about 35% is startups and the rest is already in business. And we work with people from the startup to the end. And I literally have a business that I've worked with from the time it was an inkling to when it was acquired by another company. I've worked with that owner and they just recently got reacquired by another company. And I'll probably be working with that owner. So same company, 3 owners, but I've been with them this entire journey. I guess you could say I'm the longest running employee, but I don't get paid. So,
Well, and let's just share a little bit about some of the things that you've been able to help them do, Kim. I know you being in this program, I mean, you're just a wealth of information and knowledge and trainings that you do, but I only care to share what you can because I know that it's, confidential in some regard, but if you are able to share just kind of some of the things that you were able to do to help either this company or other companies in what you've done along the way.
Oh, sure. So in general, I guess I should give you a background. So yes, I mentioned that I started at the SBDC as a regional administrative assistant, and I was going to school at Boise State to get my degree in graphic design, which I did right as the Great Recession started. So as you might guess, there wasn't a lot of jobs. And so I just stayed. And I became one of those people that really got immersed in social media. At the time, I was involved with a community theater, and I recognized the power of social media to communicate as a marketing tool. And between that and email marketing and my graphic design and website development skills, all of that kind of put me really uniquely situated to help small businesses with marketing in the digital space. And so that is primarily my focus. However, as a business consultant, I help people with startups. One of my other specialties is franchises. But we also, like I said, we do all of it. And so when I'm helping my clients, one of my favorite stories is there is a custom jewelry maker in the Boise area who came to me. This guy, man, he knows his social media is on point. Like he probably knows more about Instagram than I ever will. And as I was helping him, I'm thinking, dang, this guy's really, what is he in my office for, right? But I was able to help him with his website. And the tips that I gave him on his website turned around into $10,000 in sales within a month.
Oh, nice. I love that.
How cool is that?
And to scale it, it will continue to have that ripple effect, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, the cool thing is that they were very simple things. And so, as I was telling somebody recently, I said, my knowledge base is broad, but it's not deep. So, I can help you with a lot of things, but if you need coding on a website, I'm not your girl. If you need deep video editing, I am not your girl, but I can tell you about like all the different editing programs and what the pros and the cons are for those and that kind of stuff. So,
or give recommendations to those that do.
Right. So I have other clients who, I'm working with 3 of them right now that are all getting ready to open a second location. And this is in the middle of a pandemic still. And
exciting.
so actually I lied. four. I have four that are, I just remember there's another one. And so they're all looking in different spaces. Some of them are in Boise, some of them are out of state. And so it's really gratifying to be able to work with them on that and say, okay, well, you've grown this and you've done these operations, and look at what we can do. And so other things that I've helped with that are just not just marketing. I had a client who has started a very unique business that I can't really say what it is, but there's some risk to it. And he couldn't find insurance that would insure his business. And nobody would touch him because nobody understood what it was that he was doing. It's something that's kind of popular in bigger areas, but hasn't made it to Boise. And so I was able to track down through a lot of phone calls and a lot of things, an insurance agent that was like, hey, no, I totally get this. This is like this other thing. We insure those all the time. So here, we'll insure you. Nice. And I mean, so that was a huge stumbling block. If he couldn't get insurance, there was no way he was going to be able to go forward with this business. Right. So it was great to have those connections in the community. And that's another thing that we have is we've been in Boise. The SBDC has been in Idaho since 35 years, 36 years. And so we have really deep ties with the business community. If we don't have the talent in-house, we know somebody who does. And so that's where I don't have an insurance agent that works for us, but I know a whole bunch of insurance agents. And so it's my job to be able to like go through and say, okay, this is what it is. Can you do this? And can you find me somebody? That's one of my favorite stories, because I spent a long time looking for somebody who could insure this business, because it was kind of crazy. And he's doing so well right now. So I just heard from him and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm not going to do your thing because I'm risk adverse and I'm not going to do the thing that you do, but I appreciate that you've got it and that other people want to do that. I'm not going to jump out on an airplane either. So just a personal preference,
Okay. So Kim, I want to know, where do you get your resources and information from? What do you do to keep yourself up on the latest trends and things that are going on, and the information that you continuously learn?
Oh, okay. So I spend a lot of time on the internet, and it's funny because I spend a lot of time on social media. And so people are like, oh, you're messing around on social media again. I'm like, well, it is kind of my job. Not kind of, it is totally my job to know, to be able to answer questions. I have clients that come to me, I had one just recently that was locked out of her Facebook account. Like the business account existed, but her personal Facebook got a ban and she could no longer advertise. And so I worked with her and got it. And now we got it figured out and everything, but it took months to do that with Facebook. But if I wasn't familiar with the platforms and spending this time on them, I wouldn't be able to help somebody who comes to me and says, oh my gosh, how do I do this, right? Literally just had a client yesterday say, hey, I'm making banners for Facebook. How do these look? And I'm like, well, that's great, but why don't you make multiple ones, because they allow you to do that. And I know that because I spend the time. And it's not just Facebook. I spend time on Instagram. I spend time on TikTok. God help me. The black hole of social media, right? And Twitter. I tend to focus on social media platforms that really have some kind of business orientation to them. I spent some time on Snapchat, but it's just never really gone anywhere for small businesses. And so maybe it will, maybe it won't. I kind of keep my eye on it, but in general, I don't spend a lot of time. So there's the hands-on component. Then I keep an eye out for trainings, and I am on every SBDC's mailing list from here to New York, and I get and there's several of them that have really great programs that I learn from, and they're my colleagues that I've met at conferences and said, oh, I want to learn from you. So I know those people. Also, as when you go to conferences, you make friends, and then you start to deal with this. And, I had another client who really needed help with putting online e-commerce onto her website. And I was like, okay, well, this is kind of beyond what I know how to do. So I reached out to two of my colleagues that I've met at conferences and said, hey, what do you recommend? And they said, oh, this is what we would do. And these are people who are actually down in the trenches coding websites every day. So that I'm like, and I don't do that, so I need some help with that. I also subscribe to a wide variety of newsletters that come to my inbox. It's kind of obnoxious, and so things like HubSpot and Marketing Props and I don't know. There's just a bajillion of them that come in, and I go through and read. Usually try to spend about an hour a day reading up on these topics and researching and knowing that. So that's I'm just this big sponge that I'm always absorbing information. And what is gratifying is like when I'm scrolling through on my Sunday morning soak in the bathtub, with the bubble bath and everything, and I'll find an article that I was like, oh my gosh, this answers the question for this client. And I'm like, it justifies me spending so much time on the internet.
Yep. I do that too, and you're not alone. The TikTok time, I have to set a limit because otherwise I'll be on it for way too long.
Oh, it's the worst. You're like, I'm gonna watch 3 TikToks, and suddenly it's an hour later. I'm like,
exactly.
It's obnoxious. Well, but all social media is like that. Honestly, you could spend hours and hours and hours on it. Over the holiday, or the New Year's holiday, I stopped checking my work email for 3 days just to kind of take away, but I was on social media constantly during that time. And I realized, okay, I'm kind of bored. I really, I've ran out of things to look at on the internet.
Yep. It's recycling now.
I'm like, how many times can I watch this cat video? Well, apparently the answer is a lot, but I'm like, yeah, I've seen this one. But yeah, so that's how I learn. And I always, anytime I see a class, local, anywhere else, and I don't care whether it is a beginner level or advanced, I will take the class. Invariably, I will learn something from it. And and sometimes I'm like, I could teach this class better than they can, which I'm sorry, because I do training as well, obviously, as you know, Ray. And but there's always something to take away from that. And so I always learn some little thing. Like the other day, weirdly, I was watching a YouTube video and that was debunking all of those factory videos that are coming out that are, from the factory farms and whatnot. Anyhow, and she was talking about the likes on Facebook and what weight they have and how, just the thumbs up is pretty much nothing. The angry emoji is nothing. Everything else is like weighted at 1.5. And I was like, ooh, that's really interesting. I've known for a very long time that any of the emojis beyond the thumbs up was better engagement, but I didn't have anything that proved that. And it was just really interesting that I got it from this cake lady out of Australia whose video I was watching. So,
nice.
Oh my God. So you can gather information from a wide variety of sources. You just have to make sure that where you're getting your information from is pretty solid and it's not just somebody, pulling it out of the air.
That's why we have you. We're having our new marketing trends for the new year event coming up, and we have you as a speaker. So we're not going to give away all of the new trends that we're going to talk about at the event coming up, but give our audience just a little sneak peek of some of the things that you're seeing that you want to maybe share at the upcoming event.
So one of the big things that has really been an issue for small businesses is finding employees and keeping employees. I started in November of 2020 with clients that were having this issue before it really got rolling, and then it really, really did. And so I spent a lot of time. And I realized that I have developed a lot of content to help small businesses market themselves better to their employees and know how to not just find their employees, but how to keep them. And I think this is so important. We look at marketing as something that's outward facing. So it's to get new customers or to keep customers that we already have, right? Whereas we rarely ever think about that internal marketing. And our employees are 100% that internal marketing. And so I'm going to be giving a lot of tips and tricks that talk about how to make yourself a place that people want to work.
Oh, that's so good, especially now. I mean, that's what they're calling it, the great resignation, right?
Or the big quit. The big quit
Yeah.
is the other term. So, and I have clients that are just like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I spent a year in isolation and I haven't seen my grandchildren, and this isn't my passion anymore. And I'm like, okay, I get that. And like, a lot of people started businesses, or they found new jobs. I mean, so there's so many things that go into that, and I'll cover that briefly, about what led to this. But I won't dig deep into it because honestly, who cares? I mean, it's like, this isn't knowing what caused it. There's some things that will help us, but in general, what we really need to know is what's going to be important going forward. And I think the other thing I think we need to remember going forward is the fact that COVID has changed everything about our lives and everything about our businesses. And it's everything that we do is a little bit different from the way we shop for anything, right? Groceries, clothes, whatever, to literally day-to-day business.
Well, in this event, right? We just talked before we got on the podcast to, are we going to do it in person? Are we going to do it, virtually? We're hybrid, online, in person. Where are we at with that? And who knows, right? I mean, really, we'll have to play it by ear, but for all intents and purposes at the moment, we're going to do it hybrid where people can log in from anywhere, but also come and masks encouraged, right? And you're right. It's changed how we do business and how now we communicate. And to your point, how employers and employees are behaving now too, whether they're working from home or, if they're coming into the office or not. And what that has changed the dynamic of company culture too, right?
Absolutely. And it's also changed their perspective and what their priorities are. I mean, if you think about where you were 2 years ago, I know people who, childcare, elder care, everything, is suddenly, if your parents moved back in with you and suddenly you're raising children and taking care of elderly parents who were sick or don't want to get sick or whatever. So, there's just so much in our world. And the thing that I have to say about that, and it's always been the case with businesses, if you're not willing to pivot and make changes, you're going to get left behind 100%. And it was true before COVID, and it is so much more true now, because not only have these pivots happened without you, they're going to continue. And if you don't jump on this train, you're going to get left behind and your business is not going to flourish. So 100% you need to be ready to look at and say, and okay, so here's something, another little tidbit. So I have a client, was actually the first one that came to me and said that he was having issues with hiring, and he owns a mechanic shop. So he, fixes cars, couldn't find technicians and keep them. And so his thing was he innovated. He went, well, my service manager doesn't need to be here at the shop. They could be remote. His service manager is somewhere in the Midwest, Iowa, I think, and works remotely, has never been to the shop here in Idaho. And that has worked so well for them to be able to look. Now, obviously, the guys who are out twisting wrenches in the shop, they can't be virtual. But the fact that he was able to say, oh, I don't need this person to be in my office all the time. As a matter of fact, it loosens up space for me to put other people in the office. Yeah. And so, and of course, then we had to work through, well, how do you manage a work from home workforce? Because that's a whole other thing too. And so, but he's been recognized by his industry for his innovation on this. So how cool is that? And so this is the world that we live in right now. And, and so part of what I'll talk about is those kinds of things. And I'm really encouraging you as a small business owner to embrace the changes and just not say, well, that's not how we always did it. Well, the way we always did it is gone. And I'm sorry. The world has changed and we have to change with it. And I hate it. I know people who say, oh, I love change. They're liars. Nobody likes change, right? We really don't. It's upsetting and it's just chaos all the time. But unfortunately, we have to deal with it. And if you are open to it, it makes it a little easier to deal with. And so that's my, if you don't come to the new media trends, then take away, go with the flow, look for innovation, and be ready to change. But I highly recommend that you come, because I tell you what, this is my third time speaking. Is this the third event? Was I at the inaugural one?
Yep, I think so. We did the one in 2019, and that was in person. Then we did a virtual one, and then now this year. So
okay, so yeah, so I've been a speaker each time, and I tell you what, like, it has been great. These are all people who are marketing people. They are my colleagues. They're people who have a similar knowledge base, and I go and I'm just so blown away by the knowledge that they have. And I'm like, wow, I'm so happy that I got to be here as a speaker, to be able to enjoy what everybody else is doing, because there's some really good stuff that's going to come out. And I'm looking forward to what we have this year too.
yeah, I love doing this. I mean, a couple of things too. I mean, it keeps us, on top of what's going on in the new year, and we can, apply it to our clients too. But then also for our speakers, they get to learn just as much as they teach too. And I think it's a huge benefit for all of us, because everyone has their area of expertise and, the things that they're seeing in their, respective industries and what they're doing. And yeah, it's definitely going to be unique this year. We have lots of different variety of people who are coming. I've got Nick, who does events. That's his job, his livelihood. Nice. from IBL events. And of course they tremendously had to pivot, because you couldn't do in-person events, and so now they've done a lot of online and hybrid things, and so we're going to hear from him, and keeping people engaged online, right? I mean, that's huge. And keeping them to where they'll turn their cameras on and keep their cameras on, right?
Yeah, and not check their email or scroll their Instagram.
Exactly. And working from home with the dogs in the background, I mean.
Exactly. And who knew remember the guy whose little kid came in during the news thing, and his wife came in and was sneaking through and grabbing the kid and running? Who knew that was going to be that was prophetic and going to be our life, right? That meme is the most hilarious thing. I will say, and something that you said earlier triggered this, is I was the training coordinator for the SBDC for, oh gosh, I don't know, a while, let's say 16 years, but at least. And so prior to, and I just gave that up to somebody else, and now I'm a full-time consultant, which is great. I love doing the training. Now I don't have to do all of the registration and all the other stuff, which I love doing too, but I love training more. Yeah. But I will say that prior to COVID, I was getting every single training event that I put on, I would get an email saying, I can't make it. Are you going to record this? And at the time, I didn't really have we'd been using Zoom, but I did it with one event because I had a speaker who was out of Texas, and she had really great content. She was like, I'm going to be by. Can I do a training for you? I'm like, absolutely. And so I set up Zoom with there, but the problem was that the Zoom wasn't mic'd in for the people. So the people who are watching virtually couldn't hear the people in the room. And so the technology wasn't quite there, but I was able to record her presentation, but it was awkward and not how you should be recording video. And so, but like I said, I was getting every single event. I was getting are you going to record this? Yep. And so it was great when we went to virtual, because I'm like, oh, well, Zoom just lets you record. And so every single event we've done, we've recorded, and now they're up on our YouTube channel. So you can literally go to our YouTube channel and watch everything that we've done in the past year and a half, if you're so inclined. Not that you need to, but you can if you'd like to.
Right. It's interesting. We also used Zoom, and our staff one day a week could work remotely. And this is before BC, before COVID, right? So we, kind of already knew how to do it, what we were doing. I've been doing webinars and that kind of thing. But I have to tell you, Skype had a 10-year lead time. And boy, did they miss the boat, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because we Skyped, but it was but Zoom just became the thing. I mean, and there's, meetings and all the others, but I really think that they just talk about a business that was having to transform, at overnight, essentially, and getting people up on it and doing it. And
don't you wish that you had the foresight to buy stock in Zoom in like
Right.
December of 2019? Wouldn't that have been amazing?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've been using Zoom, same situation for, I've been doing it with clients in our rural areas, and we've been using it as a team because we have 3 locations in the Boise area, one in downtown Boise, one at the Boise State campus, and one over in Nampa. And so it just wasn't logistically great to make everybody drive from wherever for a team meeting. So we started doing it via Zoom.
Yeah.
And then of course, when this all happened, our entire state network started doing daily Zoom meetings so that we could share information. And then, and then we went to, after the flurry of, you remember sort of remember the first 3 months of the pandemic where everything was just, you had so much information and so much misinformation. And it was so crazy. And so we spent, 30 minutes a day, every day, for 4 days a week. And then it went down to 2 days a week. Now we're like 1 day a week and we still meet. But the great thing is that I actually feel more connected with the people in our other regions than I ever have in my 20 plus years working with this organization.
Right.
So there's good things that came about because of COVID, and but there's obviously, we don't need to dwell on the bad ones. I try to look at the silver lining and think like, oh, look at all the really cool stuff that came.
Like you said earlier, it's definitely changed the trajectory of how we will do business and how our lives are now moving forward. Yeah, the silver lining is that we've got some, we had to really get our country and the world up to date on technology in a very quick, rapid manner. So those are the good things, right?
Yeah, and that's been the great thing is, we've been using Zoom, and by and large, I've had maybe 2 clients over the past year and a half that just could not get it figured out. And that's fine. The phone still exists for a reason, the phone calls.
Call? What's that?
What? I know somebody just called me a second ago and I'm like, what do you text me, you lunatic? Why are you calling me? I'm like, I am not a millennial, but I have taken to texting like a millennial. I'm like, don't call me. I don't want to talk to you on the phone.
Do you use all the short codes too? Like my 14-year-old son, he'll be right back, but BRB, or, all the little.
Not all of them, but a couple of them. But I'm also still very much Gen X because I still have to punctuate and appropriately punctuate. And I have my best friend who is solidly millennial. It's like, why do you do that? It makes it weird. And I'm like, I don't understand why it makes it weird. So of course now I have to go on the internet and figure out why putting punctuation in my text messages is weird. And I'm like, okay, it's just going to have to be weird. I'm sorry.
I'm teaching one class at Boise State as well in marketing, and and a lot of them are traditional students, and I have some non-traditional, and I can definitely understand where and when they're doing journal entries, the abbreviations and the punctuation that's missing and things like that occur. So I still try to get them to use it and punctuate and do the things because it's important.
Yeah, you can see why Grammarly has taken off the way it has.
Yeah, I love Grammarly, but yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I was aware of Grammarly, and I finally just added it to my browser, and it is so cool, the free version. I am using it constantly, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize how bad my syntax and my grammar had gotten, because I was straight A, I was a spelling contest winner. I mean, all of those things, right? Apparently, my skills have degraded a little bit over the years. So it's nice that Grammarly is
texting on iPhones or.
Sorry, we are not sponsored by Grammarly. It was just of the nice thing that it actually is. The free version has been kind of a game changer for me over the last 12 weeks. Totally. So. Um,
Yeah, I kind of missed my BlackBerry because I could feel the buttons, you know,
yeah.
and I don't think I had as many typos with that, but you know, it's been a long time since I've had a BlackBerry.
Oh my gosh, isn't that so funny? We're speaking of a company that kind of missed the whole boat. Like they had the entire industry, and then nope, 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 we're not going to change.
Yep.
And
And then they, you know,
they exist. I heard something, but I don't remember what it is that it's not phones. It's
okay, maybe
something
something
else
different.
entirely. I don't know. It's
Okay.
kind of like MySpace. Remember when MySpace was a
Yes.
thing? And like MySpace went to bands, and like that was a place for all the bands. And now there's really nothing for, I know it exists. I know I can't get into my MySpace account. It's just there as a little time capsule of the early 90s or mid 90s or whenever that was. So,
Right?
but yeah, no, those are really good examples coming back around to people
Yeah.
who did not pay attention to
Right.
what their industry was telling them. And they
Blockbuster.
did.
Blockbuster
Oh,
video, right?
Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix,
Isn't
and
that
they said no.
I
I
know.
mean,
Oh, what
you
were
know,
they thinking?
you've got to know that the upper echelon, who I'm sure there's someplace else, right? But they were out of jobs for a while. I think the last Blockbuster finally closed. It was in Anchorage, Alaska, or someplace in Alaska.
There's
Finally.
one left, and the only reason I know this is the Scouts. My son and my husband are involved in the Scouts BSA, and there's one in Oregon, and they brought me back a Blockbuster hoodie and some memorabilia. So there's one left in Oregon, and that's it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all
I
there
thought
is
there
to
was.
it.
That's
But you know,
crazy.
it's interesting because now they have just like little libraries. They have those, neighborhood libraries, like the little door that
Yeah.
you open and leave a book. Well, now they have little Blockbuster stands, and there's one right behind the Civic Center over here. And you leave a movie and you take a movie. You leave a movie, you take a movie, just like those little libraries, right? And so
Oh my
now those are
gosh.
starting to pop up everywhere. And oh my gosh, there's VHS and DVDs and Blu-rays in there. People just leave them and take them,
Are
and
there
it's
any laser discs? Did we get any laser
right, beta tapes probably.
data? Oh, yeah. Speaking of, industries that did not pivot very well, right? So
Yeah, for
it's,
sure.
well, that's interesting. I had a friend who, I don't know, it was at minimum 10 years ago. He got laid off from one of the big employers here in the Boise area. And he went, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to do the corporate gig anymore. And he became just kind of a traveling consultant. And so
Right.
he would go, I want to be in Florida for the winter. And he would look for jobs in Florida, and which cool, but he put everything digital at the time. He had some books that he like stores with his sister, right? Because they're collectible, signed and first editions and that kind of stuff. But he took his entire music and video library, everything online. And at the time I was like, what?
Oh,
Oh,
imagine that.
and now I realize, like, I don't even have a CD. I'm like trying to find a CD-ROM drive,
Right.
because I thought I saw one, and I've been harassing my colleagues over in our other area. I'm like, I saw one over in Nampa. Would you look for it? I need it. And they're like, yeah, we'll get there. But I don't have a single computer that has a CD-ROM on it anymore.
Well, if you did, you could push the button and you can use it as a cup holder now, right?
Yes, yeah, well, like you always could, right? That was, my favorite. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing how quickly things change, and I'm like, I have CDs in the house that I still have, but I play them in the car because I don't have a CD player in the house.
I don't
Right?
I don't have a CD player anymore in the car either. Lots of changes.
No.
But now we're gonna move into the future, and we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about things coming up and
Oh,
have
good.
a wonderful event coming up January 19th. So if you're listening to this now, and we do it every year, so if you happen to listen to this after the fact, so yeah, January 19th, 2022, and it'll be hybrid, and Kim will get to share all of her lovely wisdom, and I cannot wait. I always get to learn lots from you, and I can tell you how happy I am for us to have this partnership together and continue on in our journey. And yeah, you're going to come and bring guests, and we'll have lots of wonderful time there to do this. So we can go to peppershock.com/events, and anytime any events are coming up, that's just the URL you can visit for this particular event. Get registered. There are early bird pricing. It's going to end soon, but just continue to look for that. So peppershock.com/events. And Kim, let's any final words of wisdom or things that you just are dying to tell our audience today?
Obviously take advantage of this. If you can't make it in person, by all means, go virtual. One of the greatest things that I've been able to take advantage of is I've been taking trainings from people in Pennsylvania, from people in Denver, and I never left my house. And so that is one of the great things about COVID. And I've learned from people. I learned about the Etsy stores from a lady in Britain. So cool, right? And so take advantage of these things. Jump on there, and also, take advantage of us at the SBDC, the Idaho SBDC, or any SBDC. If you have a small business, by all means, come speak us out, and look for our information. We're at idahosbdc.org, and if we can't help you, we'll refer you to somebody who can. And sometimes those referrals are people like Rhea. She's one of our contacts in the area when somebody needs video production, so she's on my list. So so I encourage you, don't do business in a vacuum. That is probably the worst possible thing that you could do right at the moment, is not opening yourself up to learn and be open to these experiences, because you never know when you're going to find something that is going to turn it around for you. So, and if it's us, if it's Rhea over at Peppershock, if it's somebody else, it doesn't matter, but reach out and get the help. We all could use a little hand, especially nowadays.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I was going to say one more thing. If you are listening to this and it's after the fact, if you get a membership into our community, it's the marketingexpedition.com community. All of the videos will be posted there, and you're able to log in and then watch them later if you need to. But obviously want to encourage people to either come to the event in person or online, and just having that engagement live streaming is always a good place to be. So thank you again, Kim. Really appreciate you and all that you do and all the help that you give to all of the businesses that you have worked with and continue to work with. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
All right. And for those of you listening, the best thing that you could do for us is share this with others. Give us a review. Make people listen to what we have to say. I promise you, they won't regret it.
That's right.
That's right. All right. Until next time, everybody, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Want to continue the journey? Don't miss out on new episodes. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.